42 incredible discoveries in space that expose life-changing secrets you never knew existed. Sarah Thompson perched on the rickety roof of her garage, gazing up at the infinite sky that seemed to stretch on forever. Each twinkling star flickered in time with her restless heart, whispering secrets of other worlds that felt so tantalizingly close yet hopelessly far. Dreams of becoming an astronaut filled her mind, where she would float weightlessly among those distant points of light, leaving behind the struggles of her small-town life. But reality was a heavy weight. Her father, a proud veteran, now faced unemployment, and their financial situation grew more precarious each day as she sat there. The cool night air brushed against her skin, offering her a momentary respite from the biting anxiety that gripped her home. Everything inside the Thompson household felt uncertain, with every dollar fiercely scrutinized, each moment weighed down with gravity. But tonight, something new sparked in her hope. The local school had announced a science fair themed around space exploration, and for the first time in what felt like ages, Sarah glimpsed a path ahead. This could be her chance not only to chase her dreams but also to reinstate some pride into her family's challenging life. Bulging with curiosity, she dove into space exploration research, unearthing daring discoveries that lit up her imagination. Galaxies colliding in spectacular fashion mirrored her own family's resilience in the face of overwhelming challenges. Each breakthrough echoed back to her stories of perseverance, of human strength against the vastness of the universe. Yet a shadow cast over her excitement as whispers from people at school about her ethnic background wrapped around her mind like weeds, suffocating her confidence. With days to go before the science fair, Sarah found herself tangled in a web of self-doubt. Across the gymnasium, sleek projects from affluent classmates dazzled with gadgets and professional finishes, especially from her rival, Jake. He seemed to glide through life, untouched by the struggles that weighed her down. Each time Sarah rehearsed her presentation, her heart raced with fear and uncertainty, battling against the insidious thoughts that these societal divides threatened to make her feel less than worthy. The night before the fair, fate delivered a punch that cracked through her doubts. In the attic, she stumbled upon a dusty box filled with her father's military medals, shining like distant stars hidden under layers of neglect. As she held them, an unshakable understanding poured over her. Her father's journey of resilience had paved the way for her own. His sacrifices echoed through her own resolve, igniting a fire within her that roared against the injustice surrounding her. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The day of the science fair arrived, electric with anticipation. As she stood before the crowd, the weight of their gazes felt stifling, threatening to crush her spirit. Just when she was about to begin her presentation, calamity struck. Somebody knocked over a project nearby, and chaos erupted. Her heart pounded, doubt threatening to swallow her whole. Jake, smug and well-prepared, launched into his flashy display, seemingly destined to shine brighter than her humble efforts. And just then, she saw a familiar face in the crowd, a face that spoke of camaraderie, of shared struggles, of hope. In that instant, everything pivoted. Would her story, filled with grit and grace, carry the weight to bridge the divide? The murmurs began to ripple. The audience held its breath, their attention hung on a real narrative, waiting for her to rise. Could she defy the odds that encircled her and write her own ending? The room fell into a hush as Sarah took a deep breath, steadying her shaking hands against the podium. Her heart raced, but within that storm of anxiety, a pulse of resolve surged. She could feel the warm glow of the familiar face in the crowd, a reminder that she was not alone. It only took the tiniest spark of belief to ignite a fire. "Good morning, everyone," she began, her voice quavering but gaining strength with each word. The audience leaned in, captivated. She felt the weight of their anticipation. "Today, I want to take you beyond our world, to the vast expanse of the universe that lies right above us. For a moment, she forgot about Jake and his polished project. She spoke of supernovae and black holes, of time and space twisting under gravitational pressures that seemed almost surreal. Her passion painted vivid pictures in their minds how stars were born and how they died, just like stories of resilience and strength. The energy in the room shifted. She could see faces alight with curiosity, children whispering, asking questions even before she invited them to. As she reached a pivotal part of her presentation, she paused. But let's talk about something close to my heart. The people who inspire us and who push us through challenges. Her father's medals glimmered in her mind as she continued. Each of us has our own battles, much like the stars we study. I come from a family that faces struggles every day. My dad is a veteran. His journey has taught me about resilience, about never giving up even when the odds are stacked against you. A collective sigh swept through the crowd. Sarah noticed the tension in their posture ease. She felt alive. Her story interwoven with the mysteries of the cosmos created an anthem of hope. Then Jake smirked audibly, cutting through her moment. That's nice and all, but can you show us something real, not just stories? His tone dripped with condescension. The murmurs turned skeptical, and Sarah felt a chill creep over her. That chill was quickly replaced by a rush of fire. Her father's bravery flashed before her eyes, and the memories of his challenges melded with her own. What is real? She countered, her voice rising above the noise. These stories are real. They shape us. They guide our dreams. It's about what we bring into the universe and how we connect as human beings. She glanced around the room, locking eyes with the supportive face who smiled encouragingly back. The fear that had threatened to consume her dissipated, replaced by a pugilistic spirit. She embraced the warmth of vulnerability and transformed it into power. Let me show you a real story, a story about hope, the kind that lights our way through the darkest nights. In that moment, the energy shifted again. The audience, drawn in, started to lean forward, cheers of support bubbling from behind the rows. She confidently shared her small-town experiences, the struggles, and all the dreams that burst forth from her heart like stars. Feeling buoyed, Sarah finished with a call to action. Let us be explorers, not only of space but of love, kindness, and unity. We can all discover the universe's wonders together. The final words echoed in the gymnasium, electrifying the air. Spontaneous applause erupted, shaking the very beams of the building. She stood, stunned, as smiles erupted, faces gleaming, and the whispers transformed into a symphony of cheers. But amid the celebration, a flicker of uncertainty returned. Was this moment enough to truly change perceptions? Would her victory be more than just in this gym, or would it echo into the larger world waiting outside? As Sarah caught her breath, she realized that this was only the beginning. What lay ahead when the science fair ended, and the applause faded into whispers once more? Would she have the courage to continue her journey, even when the stars seemed far away? As the applause washed over her, Sarah blinked back tears of disbelief. She had poured her heart out, and in that moment, she felt both buoyed and terrified. The thrill of acceptance danced with the anxiety of what was to come next. Would she find a way to carry this energy beyond the walls of the gym? With the echoes of cheering still thrumming in her ears, she made her way off the stage, her legs feeling weightless. Each step brought her closer to where her friends were waiting, their faces beaming with pride. The supportive face in the crowd was now right in front of her. Molly, her best friend since childhood. "You were amazing," Molly exclaimed, wrapping her arms around Sarah in a tight hug. "You really showed them what you're made of." For a fleeting moment, Sarah felt a rush of confidence. Perhaps she could stretch this feeling of triumph beyond high school and into a future filled with possibilities. But as they joined the throng celebrating around the gym, Jake's mocking expression lingered in her mind. What if this was just a flash in the pan? The day continued with laughter and promises of pizza, but a heaviness slowly settled in. The throng of fellow students applauding her felt like a distant echo, dimmed by her own insecurities. As they snapped pictures beside the science fair displays, her own project shining amidst the others, her brave front began to crack. "Hey, what's up?" Molly nudged her, catching on to the shift in Sarah's energy. "You totally rocked it. Why do you look like you just lost a game?" "Just thinking about everything," Sarah admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if this is all there is? I mean, what if I can't keep up this momentum?" Molly's brow furrowed with concern. "You have to keep pushing, Sarah. The only way to challenge those doubts is to move forward." "I know that," Sarah responded, forcing a smile. "It's easier said than done." As the crowd began to thin, Sarah's eyes caught the exhibit of Jake's project. It was flashy and professionally constructed, everything he had paraded from the start. The bitterness of self-doubt crept in again, clenching around her chest. "Let us get out of here," Sarah said abruptly, eager for a distraction. She wanted to leave the echoes of the gym behind her, along with the feelings they stirred up. "Yeah, good idea," Molly agreed, her voice brightening. "We'll go get that pizza and celebrate your victory. This is just the beginning, remember?" They stepped outside. The evening sky, painted with rich hues of purple and orange, felt refreshing. As they walked toward the parking lot, though, a new urgency tugged at Sarah. "Hey, wait a minute," she said, a sudden determination igniting in her heart. "What if I reach out to the local newspaper? What if I share my story in the community?" Molly's eyes sparkled with excitement. "That's it. You should. You have a voice, Sarah. You can inspire more people than you realize." A bubbling energy filled her stomach as possibilities rooted themselves in her mind. But behind that excitement lurked a tinge of fear. What if no one listened? What if her message vanished into the abyss? "Okay, let us do it," she said, though uncertainty lingered in her voice. "But if it flops, what will I do then?" "Then we try again. You just have to keep going. You won't be alone in this," Molly reassured her, taking her hand firmly as they reached their car. Sarah felt the weight begin to lift slightly, replaced by an eager anticipation. Stepping into the driver's seat, she glanced in the rearview mirror, where her reflection brimming with ambition stared back. Sarah realized that no matter the outcome, the journey would be worth it. The stars may be far, but they were also within reach, glowing brightly against the night sky. But as she turned the key in the ignition, a message buzzed on her phone. A text from Jake appeared, dark and taunting. "Enjoyed your little performance. I hope you don't think that will change anything." The confidence she had felt flickered like a distant star. Would she rise up from this challenge, or would the words of one person snuff out her flame? Sarah's heart sank as the words on her screen sunk in. They felt like lead, pulsing with the familiar rhythm of Jake's derisive laughter that seemed to echo from the past. "I hope you don't think that will change anything." What did he mean by that? Change what? She exhaled heavily. Troubled, Molly leaned over, noticing Sarah's tense expression. "What did he say?" "Just some usual Jake stuff," Sarah replied, forcing a casual tone. But her voice trembled. If only she could vanish the sting of those words, flip a switch and make them disappear. "I know he's trying to get under my skin. I shouldn't let it bother me. But he knows how to push your buttons," Molly interjected. "Yeah," Sarah whispered, not wanting to dwell on the sour taste his cruelty left in her mouth. "It's just I want to be proud, you know? What if I get out there and nothing happens? What if I fail again?" Molly placed a comforting hand on Sarah's arm, grounding her. "You won't fail. You've already taken the first step. You stood up there and shared your story. That's more than most people ever do." Firing up the engine, Sarah turned her attention back to the road ahead. As the car rolled forward, she felt a flicker of hope fighting through the shadows cast by Jake's cynical taunt. What if she did reach out to that local paper? What if her story could resonate with someone else? "Let's south swing by my place first," Molly said, breaking the silence. "I want to grab some supplies for our pizza night. Maybe we can brainstorm what you want to say." "Perfect. I love brainstorming," Sarah replied, feeling a small smile creep onto her lips. When they arrived at Molly's house, the kitchen was warm and inviting, filled with the rich scent of spices and hearty bread. They moved around the space, pulling ingredients from cabinets. Pepperoni, cheese, mushrooms, and a fistful of fresh herbs. Laughter bubbled between them as they tossed toppings on the pizza dough, a lightness dropping like an anchor in Sarah's heart. Once the pizzas were in the oven, they plopped down at the kitchen table, papers spread out, anticipation buzzing in the air. Okay, so tell me what you want to accomplish with your article, Molly encouraged, prodding Sarah gently out of her whirlpool of doubt. Taking a deep breath, Sarah began. I want to talk about overcoming fears, how small victories matter, and how everyone has a story worth telling. Molly nodded vigorously, her bright eyes shining like beacons of encouragement. Exactly. People connect to real emotions, real journeys. Just look at you on stage. You have a genuine story that can inspire others to get up and chase their dreams. Right, Sarah agreed, a newfound energy igniting her passion. If I can inspire one person to take a leap of faith, then it's worth it, she added, a smile breaking through her earlier worries. As the timer dinged, they hopped up to retrieve the pizzas, their minds abuzz with ideas. With each slice they devoured, Sarah's doubts washed away like the crumbs scattered on the counter. She could feel the flutter of excitement blossoming in her heart. Once they finished eating, Sarah pulled out her phone to type a rough outline. The words began to flow, channeling the energy from the gym into something tangible. In that moment, a sense of clarity emerged. She wasn't just a student with insecurities. She was a voice, a budding writer, ready to share her experience. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again. Another text from Jake. She hesitated, glancing at Molly. Should I even look? Just ignore it. Or better yet, respond back with something strong, Molly suggested, inspired by their productive evening. Sarah swiped the screen. A decision hung in the air, one that could shake her confidence or fortify it. Maybe I should just block him altogether, she said, her mind battling fresh determination against doubt. As she pondered, the realization set in that whatever the outcome, she had already stepped into the role of her own story. She was no longer a passive character. She was determined to write the next chapter of her life. But deep down, a lingering uncertainty ignited. What if sharing her story didn't lead to the support she craved? What if Jake's words were just a prelude to something far worse? With a surge of courage, Sarah turned her focus away from the phone. No more distractions, she murmured, fueled by resolve. What she didn't expect was for an unexpected visitor to knock at the door, bringing with them even more questions she never anticipated. The knock echoed through the cozy kitchen, and both Sarah and Molly jumped slightly. Their conversation abruptly halted. It had the kind of urgency that tugged at Sarah's gut. It felt almost ominous, like the rapid beat of her heart as she moved toward the door. Should we see who it is? Molly asked, her voice calm but laced with curiosity. Sarah nodded, an unsettling mix of anticipation and dread swirling inside her. She glanced back at the kitchen table, where her phone lit up again with yet another message from Jake, a distraction she didn't have time for right now. With a determined inhale, she swung open the door. Hi! The figure standing on the porch was no one she expected. It was Hannah, an old friend from high school, with a wide smile that seemed out of place against the evening's soft shadows. Hey, it's so good to see you, Sarah said, trying to shake off the surprise. What are you doing here? I was in the neighborhood and thought I would drop by. I heard about your performance at the gym. I just wanted to tell you how proud I am. Hannah beamed, her eyes sparkling with sincerity. Sarah's heart swelled a little, but the weight of apprehension still clung to her. Thanks. That really means a lot. Molly stepped forward, introducing herself and inviting Hannah inside. We were just brainstorming some ideas for an article Sarah wants to write. Oh wow, that sounds amazing. Can I hear about it? Hannah's excitement was contagious, and it washed over Sarah like a wave of encouragement as they moved to the table. Sarah poured out her thoughts, sharing how she wanted to write about overcoming fears and the importance of sharing one's story. Each word felt lighter as Hannah listened intently, nodding along, adding her own encouraging remarks. That's exactly it, Hannah said, her eyes lighting up. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. People will connect with that. But even as the warmth of rekindled friendship enveloped her, Sarah's mind drifted back to Jake's cruel text. She struggled to shake the insecurities creeping back in, whispering doubts that she tried hard to ignore. The conversation flowed, shifting back to old memories, the three of them laughing in the school cafeteria, hidden secrets shared in hushed tones, dreams laid out under sprawling bridges. Each shared recollection was a reminder of the vibrant friendships that shaped her, and for a moment, the shadows faded. Yet, as Molly excused herself to grab some dessert, Sarah felt a tightness in her chest again. Sometimes, she started, her voice a whisper, I wonder if I'm just kidding myself. What if no one wants to hear what I have to say? What if my story doesn't matter? Hannah's smile faded slightly, replaced by a look of understanding. It does matter, Sarah. Your journey is yours alone, and that's powerful. Remember, every single person has a story that can touch others. You never know who's out there, waiting for the inspiration you bring. This reassurance sparked a flicker of determination in Sarah, but suddenly, a dull ping from her phone cut through the moment. Against her better judgment, she glanced over, her breath catching at the sight of another message from Jake. It's just him again, she muttered, frustration bubbling up. Hannah noticed her change in demeanor. What's he saying? Compelled by the urge to share, Sarah handed her the phone. She watched Hannah's face shift from two-dimensional concern to a furrowed brow as she read. This doesn't sound good, Hannah finally said, concern etched in her features. Before Sarah could respond, Molly returned, a plate of brownies in hand, unaware of the tension that had just entered the room. I made dessert. Who's ready for a sugar rush? The momentary darkness lingered in Sarah's mind, clutching tightly at her resolve. But as she watched her friends share a laugh, she felt a flicker of light. Perhaps this was the journey she needed right now, the journey of friendship and confronting fears, however daunting. Yet somehow, deep down, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the calm before a storm. Before she could voice her worries, the doorbell rang again, and her heart raced. What now? She whispered under her breath, uncertainty creeping back in. What awaited her on the other side of the door? Sarah's heart raced as she exchanged glances with Molly and Hannah, their playful laughter fading into a heavy silence. The doorbell rang again, this time insistent, each chime hanging in the air like an unanswered question. Should we answer it? Molly asked hesitantly, her brow furrowed with concern while Hannah remained focused, curiosity glimmering in her eyes. Yeah. I mean, it could be something important, Sarah replied, though her voice trembled slightly. She felt the weight of her phone in her pocket, a constant reminder of Jake, the storm she hadn't faced yet. With a deep breath, she crossed the room, her fingers curling around the doorknob. The moment she opened the door, the chill of the evening swept in, carrying with it a tense shift in atmosphere. Standing on the porch was a man she had never seen before. His demeanor was serious, and Sarah instinctively took a step back as his gaze settled on her. Are you Sarah Thompson? He asked, his voice steady but carrying an edge of urgency. I am, Sarah answered cautiously, scanning his face for any hint of familiarity but finding none. I'm Jack, from the community center. He paused, taking a moment to measure her reaction. I hate to bring this up, but could we speak privately? Sarah hesitated. The heaviness of the moment bore down on her like a storm cloud. Images of Jake's messages flashed through her mind, cutting remarks and implications tugged at her confidence. This man seemed to bring an unexpected tension she couldn't place. What's this about? She asked, trying to maintain her composure. Jack recomposed himself. It's about your recent performance and a fallout that's been affecting our programs. I think it's important we discuss this in detail. I'm okay. Just give me a second. She turned back to Molly and Hannah. They stood together, the concern etched on their faces amplified by the seriousness of the conversation. Are you okay? Molly asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know yet, Sarah replied, a knot forming in her stomach. She stepped outside, the chill of the air invigorating yet nerve-wracking. Jack motioned for her to follow him a few steps away from the door. I just want to say that your performance was impactful, but some people internal communications got misconstrued. Word is that there are doubts cast on your credibility. Rumors that it might have been fabricated. The world around her started to blur. Fabricated? What? That makes no sense. I know it sounds crazy, but I think it stems from a group that doesn't understand your message or where you're coming from. Your story matters, Sarah. People are afraid of what they don't understand. Each word felt like a blow. The shadows and insecurities that had lingered within her burst to the forefront. But I shared something real, something honest. How could anyone think otherwise? Jack's expression softened. Sometimes people cast shadows on what they can't comprehend. It's easier to tear down than to build up. I wanted to give you a heads up before it escalates. You need to prepare yourself. Sarah's heart raced. Anger mixed with the fear that had taken root. Doubts danced in her mind, swirling into a storm that threatened to consume her. Somewhere inside, she felt that flicker of determination. Hannah's encouraging words echoed within her. This was not just about her performance anymore. It was about standing firm, sharing her voice, and facing whatever came next. Can we talk more about this? I don't want to let this ruin what I've worked for, Sarah managed, her voice steadying. Absolutely, but we should get your friends involved too. If they're behind you, it'll help push back against the negativity, Jack replied. His urgency mingled with genuine care. As they walked back toward the house, clenching her fists, Sarah caught sight of Molly and Hannah still standing by the door, worry written all over their faces. What if the storm was just the beginning? Would her friends stand with her through the fallout, or would doubt seep into their hearts as well? As she approached them, Sarah could feel the weight of the obstacle ahead. But then again, perhaps this was her moment to rise above, or would it tear her down? Outside, the skies darkened, and a gust of wind swept through the air, as if nature itself was anticipating her next move. Would she find a way to reclaim her power, or would she be overwhelmed by the forces against her? Sarah walked back inside, her heart still pounding. The door closed behind her, muffling the chilly wind and the echo of Jack's words. Molly and Hannah stepped forward, their expressions a mix of concern and determination, as if they could sense the change in the atmosphere, the weight of unspoken fears filling the room. What did he say? Molly asked, her voice tight with anxiousness. Some rumors are swirling about my performance. They're saying some things are fabricated, Sarah said, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. What? That's insane. Hannah exclaimed, her voice rising. Those people don't know you or what you've been through. I thought it would get easier after my speech, Sarah said, rubbing her temples, frustration blending with confusion. I thought I was making a difference, but it seems I've only opened the door for doubt. Molly stepped closer, her brow creasing with worry. But you wouldn't have shared your story if it wasn't real, right? You fought too hard for this. I know that, Sarah replied, her voice fierce yet laced with vulnerability. But when you're facing doubts from people you thought were advocates, it's hard not to second-guess yourself. It's like I'm standing at the edge of a cliff and I can't tell if I'm going to fly or fall. You're not alone in this, Hannah assured her, reaching for Sarah's hand. We're in this together. Whatever they throw at you, we'll face it as a team. Sarah squeezed Hannah's hand tightly, feeling a spark of warmth amidst the chaos. The fierce loyalty from her friends reminded her of the essence of community, the reason she started speaking out in the first place. Okay, she said, taking a deep breath that anchored her thoughts. Jack thinks we should confront this head-on. If we counter their doubts with our truth, maybe we can turn this around. That's a plan. Molly brightened, her face lighting up. We can tackle this together. What do we need to do? We need evidence, testimonies, anything that proves we're not alone. People who believe in me, who understand the intent behind my story, Sarah suggested, feeling those embers of determination ignite within her. This is your moment, Sarah, Hannah said, her voice steady. Let us gather everyone we can. We'll write down our experiences, include everything you've achieved. We can show them how powerful your voice really is. Sarah nodded, feeling gratitude swell inside her. The looming uncertainty started to lose its grip, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose. Yet, just as she felt the courage build, the realization struck her. Would they really stand together against the tide of skepticism? Would her community truly rally behind her? They spent the next hour sketching out ideas, flipping through notepads and poring over computer screens. It felt cathartic, like letting go of a weight she didn't fully realize she was carrying. Suddenly, Sarah's phone buzzed in her pocket, jolting her from the moment. It was a text from Jake. Her heart dropped as she saw his name flash on the screen. Are you really serious about this? Don't kid yourself. You know what happened last time. Better to stay quiet. The air thickened with tension as she read the words again, her pulse quickening. Anger boiled up, mixing with the vulnerability she had just begun to overcome. She clenched her fists, her resolve hardening like steel. Let us not just respond to whispers, let us shout. Let them hear us, Sarah said, her voice firm with newfound strength. But as she spoke, a surge of uncertainty threatened to drown her resolve. Could she truly rise up against the whispers that haunted her? As night deepened outside, the wind howled louder, rattling the windows, almost as if the universe was taunting her to take the leap. What if this storm held the key to her ultimate truth? And what if Jake's doubt was just the beginning of a separate battle she needed to face? The room felt electric, charged with an energy that pulsed around Sarah. Every whisper, every glance, was now magnified, as if each person in the space echoed Jack's doubts. Those sharp words transformed into a chorus of uncertainty, and the walls began to close in around her. But there was also a fierce flicker of light ignited by Molly and Hannah's unwavering support. Sarah, Molly said gently, breaking the silence that had wrapped them in a cocoon of anxious thoughts, you have to remember why you started. It wasn't for them. It was for all the people who need to hear you, right? It's bigger than me. I assent it? Sarah murmured, feeling the weight of her mission sink back into her chest. A memory flashed before her, a room full of faces she had spoken to, their eyes glistening with disbelief and hope. She had walked into that room shaking but had left with a sense of purpose. We can compile a list of your supporters. Write down stories. Use their voices to drown out the negativity. Hannah suggested, her eyes shining with determination. Exactly, Molly added, her enthusiasm infectious. We need to show them the impact you've already had. Ride the wave of support. Sarah took a breath, desperately trying to rein in the chaos of her emotions. Okay, let us do that, she said, her voice steadying. We'll reach out to everyone I've spoken to, everyone who reached out after my speech. We'll gather their stories and share them like a tapestry of truth. The three friends sprang into action. They divided tasks, each focused on gathering as much support as they could muster. Time warped around them as they dashed to their phones, sending messages and calls to anyone who would listen. There was a rhythm to their movements, a shared pulse that filled the room with determination. As the minutes ticked by, Sarah felt a change within her. Each connection she made, every text returned, fueled her spirit. It was as if a warm light had taken hold in their corner, pushing back against the growing shadows of doubt. Check this out, Molly said, pulling up images of handwritten letters from previous events. Look how many people you've touched. This is gold, these are real words that matter. Sarah's heart swelled as she read through the notes, each one a reminder of the lives she had stirred. The initial fears began to melt away, replaced by the undeniable strength of unity. Yet, just as optimism surged, she received another text. It's Jake again. Sarah's voice trembled slightly. He says it's reckless, that if I push back, I'll regret it. People will only hate me more. The air stilled. The sounds of laughter and typing faded into a tense silence. Forget Jake, Hannah said vehemently, her eyes alight with conviction. He doesn't get to determine your worth. You are stronger than his doubts. In that moment, something shifted in Sarah. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for every hand she'd ever held, every story shared. Vulnerability transformed into tenacity. Bravery blossomed from doubt. An idea ignited in Sarah's mind. What if we set up a public forum? A safe space where people can share their truths can be a powerful testament to what we've all been through. Molly's eyes glittered with excitement. Yes, a truth-telling event. We can fill a room with reality. Let everyone be heard. As they jotted down plans on the whiteboard, Sarah felt the buzz of possibility surround her. The storm outside raged, but now it felt more like a thrilling challenge than a threat. But just as all seemed to align, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a group text from several members of her community, voicing their own uncertainties about supporting her. The world began to spin. Would the voices she yearned for, the ones that could lift her up, turn against her when she needed them most? Sarah's heart raced. Would the storm of doubt drown out the whispers of hope she had worked so hard to gather? With a heavy breath, she wondered if she could withstand not only her battle but also the one brewing within her community. Sarah stared at her phone, the group text glaring back at her, a cacophony of voices brandishing fear and hesitance. Doubt seeped into her bloodstream, overshadowing the excitement that had filled the room only moments before. The vibrant tapestry of hope she and her friends had begun to weave seemed suddenly frayed and fragile. "Hey, what does it say?" Molly's voice pierced through the storm brewing in Sarah's mind. Taking a deep breath, Sarah read the messages. Words like concerned and worried hovered around constructs of community that they had built together. Every pulse of apprehension in her chest felt like a warning sign, or was it? As she finished reading, silence fell over the trio. Molly and Hannah exchanged worried glances. "Maybe we need to address their fears directly," Hannah suggested, breaking the silence. "Show them what this means to you, to us. Highlight the importance of having these conversations." "Right," Sarah said slowly, her heart racing. "But what if they decide the risk is too great? If their worries outweigh the potential support?" Molly stepped closer, her resolve unwavering. "If you don't speak up, you'll never know. You would always wonder what could have been. Let your voice be stronger than their doubts." In that moment, a flicker of light ignited again within Sarah. The very emotions that had held her back before began to congeal into a fierce motivation. "Okay," she said, her voice growing more certain. "Let us create a message, a letter to our community. Open, honest, and raw." As they gathered around the whiteboard once again, the energy in the room shifted. Ideas flowed from her fingertips onto the paper. They crafted sentences that spoke of courage and connection, peeling back the layers of vulnerability. They poured their hearts into words that would reach out, not just to tell a story, but to invite others into hers. "This is about shared experience," Sarah asserted, looking at both of her friends. "It's about lifting each other up, even if we disagree at times." Molly nodded, her eyes filling with pride. "This is the crux of it. Because it's easy to doubt. It's easy to hide. But it's so much more difficult to step into the light." With their letter taking shape, they all felt the collective strength rising between them. This wouldn't be just Sarah's fight. It would be a community rallying together, anchoring each other against waves of criticism. It was a risk, yes, but perhaps it was the kind of risk worth taking. They finalized the letter and together sent it out, holding their breaths as the words began to find their way into the hands of others. Sarah's heart thudded in her chest as she imagined the mixed reactions it would provoke: curiosity, acceptance, or rejection. "I can't believe we're actually doing this," she said, her voice breaking ever so slightly. "Oh, it'll be great," Molly reassured. "Trust your truth. It's powerful." Just then, Sarah's phone buzzed once more. This time, it was a notification about the upcoming event. They were planning a public forum where shared truths would be heard. She clicked on it, apprehensive yet hopeful. Within moments, a wave of responses flooded in. Some voices were uplifting, others cautious, and still others outright dismissive. The contrast stung, each message layered with its own weight of emotion. Hannah looked over Sarah's shoulder, her expression turning from excitement to concern. "There are a lot of mixed feelings here. What if they turn away from you after all this?" Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The realization hit her hard. They had laid everything bare, exposed to the risk of rejection. Would the community they sought to unite fracture instead? With a feeling of growing dread, Sarah considered the impossible. What if instead of a tapestry, they had woven a net that would pull her down? The evening air outside rattled against the windows, as if echoing her inner turmoil, and she couldn't shake the feeling that storms inside and out were far from over. Could she rally a community to join her fight? Would they transform her fears into triumph, or would doubt consume them all? The answers hung in the air, waiting for her to find the courage to dive deeper into the chaos. As dawn broke, the sky brushed with soft pastels. Sarah felt the tendrils of anxiety wrapping tightly around her heart. She had sent her letter to the community inviting people to share their truths, but what if it had fallen on deaf ears? What if the doubt and fear echoed louder than any support? Sitting at the kitchen table, she stared at her phone. Each buzz sent a jolt through her chest, a reminder of the battle looming ahead. Molly and Hannah were by her side, their expressions filled with concern. "You've got this, Sarah," Molly insisted, her hand resting on Sarah's forearm. "Don't forget, your truth is powerful." Sarah took a deep breath, pushing aside the swirling doubts. "I just hope they can see what I'm trying to accomplish, how we can build a community that's stronger and more connected." The phone buzzed again, and she hesitated before glancing at the screen. A notification from the community center: a small gathering was scheduled to discuss the backlash surrounding her performance. A knot tightened in her stomach. She knew Jake would be there. Would his doubts rip apart everything she worked for? Just then, her phone rang. It was Jack, the man from the community center who had brought her the first wave of concern. "Sarah, we're gathering some people together today to discuss the upcoming forum," he said. "I think your voice needs to be heard there. Are you willing to attend?" Her heart raced. This was her chance. "Yes, I'll be there." She barely managed to keep the quiver out of her voice. When they arrived, the room buzzed with hushed expectancies. Sarah stood at the edge, her heart pounding vigorously. Familiar faces filtered through the crowd, some she had hoped would support her, others who had hesitated in their doubts. Jake stood off to the side, smirking as if he already knew how this would play out. "Let us start," Jack said, drawing everyone's attention. A hush fell over the room. "We're here to talk about the upcoming forum and how to create a supportive environment. We want everyone to feel safe sharing their truths." As discussions began, Sarah felt the weight of anticipation and fear clawing at her heart. She fought to keep her composure as doubt threatened to overtake her. Jack opened the floor for anyone to express their thoughts, and she stood at the periphery, waiting for the right moment to jump in. Gradually, voices joined the conversation, their support washed over her, invigorating her spirit. Stories spilled forth about the struggles, the victories, the sometimes simple, often profound need to be understood. Tension blurred, and Sarah could feel the energy pivoting toward unity. Then, Jake raised his hand, closing in on the hope building in the room. "This is all very nice, but what is Sarah's actual plan? What makes her story any different from anyone else's?" A silence echoed through her veins. The air grew thick. Doubt confronted her, a familiar adversary. But Sarah knew this was the moment to reclaim her narrative. "What makes my story different? It is me. It is who I am and where I come from. My journey is crafted by struggles, triumphs, and most importantly, resilience. Like a star that burns brightly, even when faced with darkness." The audience shifted, leaning in. "Voices like mine need to be heard because we've been quiet for far too long." She continued, heat rising in her chest as she spoke. "If I can inspire even one person without any sense of normalcy or perfection, then I want to share that light." A ripple of murmurs filled the air, and she caught sight of a few nodding in agreement. Each word ignited a spark within her, and suddenly the fear began to subside. The power of vulnerability transformed into electricity. In that moment, Hannah stepped up beside her, squeezing her hand tight. "We're here to encourage each other, and to remind anyone who has felt unheard that their stories matter, because they do." Molly joined in, her voice unwavering as she continued to speak to the crowd, rallying support. "We can be a community of advocates, breaking barriers and celebrating our differences, standing firm, even when it feels turbulent outside." With every word, Sarah saw the room shifting to a place of connection and warmth, to a safe harbor. The walls that had loomed around her heart began to dissolve, and realization dawned she was exactly where she was meant to be. Gradually, hands raised, people shared their experiences, motivations, and their own battles. The storm that had once threatened to drown her now felt like a fierce wind beneath her wings, propelling her higher as the discussion continued. Sarah could sense Jacob's discontent simmering in the background, but it began to fade beneath the overwhelming chorus of support around her. Together, they crafted plans, their voices intertwining to build a community that radiated acceptance and understanding. At that moment, as she took a step closer to the wings of her dreams, Sarah felt a profound realization. Every time doubt surfaced, it would transform into strength when shared with others. This was a collective journey, and together they could shine brighter than any individual star could alone. As the gathering concluded, she felt the palpable shift in the air. Faces beamed with excitement and newfound purpose. They were no longer alone. They had become a source of light for one another. With heads held high, they stepped into the new day, leaving behind whispers of doubt. Instead, they embraced the power of their shared stories, ready to face the universe together. It was more than just a fairy tale ending. It was the beginning of a revolution of voices. Now armed with the lessons learned and community rallied behind her, Sarah was ready for whatever lay ahead. Within that moment of triumph, she made a silent pledge. She would never let anyone, especially Jake, define her worth again. She would continue the conversation, expanding their movement and championing every voice in her orbit. With tears of joy in her eyes and a heartbeat full of hope, she knew this chapter was just the start of something remarkable. So remember, if you want to be part of this journey, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support, to embrace these stories that transform lives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this movement alive. Comment your reactions, because your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation, and let us illuminate this path together. Don't wait not even one more second to spread the light.